Hi there, and welcome to the Everyday Millionaire Podcast. My name is Patrick Francie, and I am your host, and I want to begin by saying thank you for listening. On this show, I am having conversations with seemingly ordinary individuals who have achieved some amazing and extraordinary results in both their life and business. My intention is to inspire and help you learn and grow by having my guests share their journey of how they face and overcome their challenges, but also how they celebrate their many wins. And now, let's get on with this show and have a conversation with today's guest. My guest today, Dwan Bent-Twyford, is America's most sought-after real estate investor. She transformed her life from a broke single mom to a renowned real estate investor. She was fired from Denny's when she was young and determined to raise her daughter at home. Dwan discovered real estate investing. Starting as a complete novice, she taught herself through Home Depot classes and made $22,000 on her first deal. Innovatively, she pioneered short sales, creating the first training program for this niche. And Dwan has flipped over 2,000 deals, written bestsellers, and founded the Investor's Edge University, which trains investors. She's been featured on major media outlets and sharing stages with top financial experts. And Dwan remains committed to impacting others' lives. You can visit her, by the way, at investorsedgeuniversity.com. We had an absolutely amazing conversation. She is a force. And amazing story. Without any further delays, let's get this show started. Dwan Bent-Twyford, welcome to the Everyday Millionaire Podcast. Thanks for joining me.
I'm so excited to be here today.
So you are a fellow podcaster based out of the United States of America. What's hometown?
Well, Colorado. We'll say Colorado. Denver, Colorado. We live in the mountains. I have a house in Florida by the beach, which is where my heart lives. And I'm in Iowa in my little farmhouse community apartments. I'm kind of a little bit of a nomad.
You're a little bit of a nomad. I get that. You know, my wife, Stephanie, and I are bi-provincial. You know, we have homes in both the province of Alberta and British Columbia, and we kind of go between the two provinces. I've got businesses in Alberta as well as British Columbia and family in Alberta. So we're back and forth quite a lot. And it's interesting about you being in Colorado. I actually had one of my businesses and I had partners in Colorado. We were in Louisville and in Boulder. And so spent a lot of years over there, had stores set up and I have great memories. And my wife is literally returning home from Denver today. She was there and received an award with the U.S. Figure Skating Association as their one of their coaches of the year. So that was kind of cool and interesting. It's just a small world. Yeah.
Yeah. And she's in Denver. That's right.
Yeah. So it was. So it's good to have this conversation. Good to meet you. And we were just on a show together, so that's great. I was on your podcast, so that's cool. So we already know each other a little bit, but I get to ask the questions now, Dwan. It's my turn.
I know. Okay. I don't know.
We're gonna dig deep. I always say this to guests, you know, that bios are great, and I know, you know, my bio. What happens is it doesn't get updated, or, you know, they're great. They kind of give you an overview, but I like to just get into it with my guests right away and open the question for the listeners is, you know, Dwan, when somebody says to you, what do you do? What is the answer to your question these days?
I tell people I'm a full-time real estate investor, coach, mentor, entrepreneur. So I still invest. I still actively do real estate. I actually coach and mentor people as well. And right now I'm in Iowa and my husband and I are rehabbing this little town. Like a town. We bought a building. I go, we'll buy a building. This is where he's from. And in the last 5 years now, we have 28 parcels. So we are literally rehabbing a town.
Now, let's talk about that part of your journey. Like, okay, so you're rehabbing a town, so got it. That's fun, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But the question I have for you is that why don't we go back to where did you start the journey? Because rehab is a little bit more sophisticated, especially when you're talking about rehabbing in jest or not, it's a big project that you've taken on. So
Yeah.
when you consider that, where did you start that part of your journey? How long ago, and what was kind of your first foray into rehab?
So I had a baby, got married and had a baby when I was 30. So I'm 65. So that many moons ago. And I was sort of going to be like the stay-at-home mom and be like the Girl Scout mom and the brownie and, all the homeroom mom and the field trip mom and all the things. And then when my daughter was 8 months old, my husband and I split up unexpectedly. So now I was like, well, shoot, when I'm 30 years old, I have a baby, I want to be all those other things. How am I going to work and do that? So I guess it was just one of those times, like we call a come to Jesus moment, where you're like, well, do I get a job? Do I branch out and work for myself? What do I do? And of course, my whole family was like, oh, you got to get a job. You got to have insurance. You got to have stability. You're a single mother. And my other part was like, yeah, but I still want to do those things with my daughter. So I'm thinking I'm going to try to work for myself. If it doesn't work out, I can still get a job. But I knew enough at 30 to know if I got a job, I'd keep it till she was like 18 and I'd be 50. And I'm sure you can remember back, but we were like 25 and 30. People that like 50 and 60 were so old.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh my God, I'll be like an old woman. And I thought, no, I'm gonna give it a shot. And I always tell people, if you're listening to this podcast right now, you are 100 miles ahead of where I was, because I was just looking for something to do from home. I met some people like, oh yeah, we buy houses, we fix them up, we sell them. And I thought, that sounds like fun. How hard could that be? I'm going to try that. So I was just going to give it a swing and see how it worked out. And I did not realize how hard rehabbing was because I possessed no skills. But I moved into it. I found a house. I moved into it. I rehabbed it. I sold it retail. I made $22,000 on my first deal. I was like, I'm doing this forever. And so now I have a 35-year-old daughter. So I've been doing basically since 1990. And that's it. Once I started, I never quit. I just kept doing it, rehabbing, wholesaling. Then I started teaching and writing books. And here we are.
Now, along the way, if I'm not mistaken, I recall reading somewhere that you did some short selling. Is that an accurate statement?
Oh, yeah. I actually trademarked short sales as it applies to real estate investing. So back then, it would have had to have been like the early 90s. I had rehabbed a couple houses, and I only knew how to do that one thing because the people I met were like, we buy them, we rehab them, and then we sell them retail. So it's like, okay. Then they open these things in the States that are called REIA groups, real estate investor associations. And basically it's a place where they meet at a hotel, third Wednesday of every month, and everybody shows up. And I started going to those meetings, and people were saying you could wholesale it. You could find it, and then you could sell it to a rehabber and just make an assignment fee. So I thought, that sounds better and it sounds easier. And, because I don't know a lot about rehabbing. And then as I'm wholesaling more and more houses, the deals were getting tighter. So I just started calling the banks and saying, hey, I need you to knock off this fee, that fee, because I was wholesaling these houses, and how the closing statements come back as they do, with all kinds of extra things on them as they do. And I got a couple of banks to be like, yeah, we'll knock that off. Yeah, we'll knock that off. We'll knock that off. So my mind is like, well, if they'll knock off $4,000 in fees, what if they'll knock off $10,000 in principal? And then I wonder if they'll knock off $20,000. And then, so I just kept going and asking, and all of a sudden I'm doing short sales like a crazy person. And at that time, nobody in the entire United States was teaching it or talking about it or anything. So I wrote a little 75-page training program for real estate investors, and copyrighted and trademarked it and trademarked the name and all the stuff. And then I became the queen of short sales.
Oh, there you go. Now, in a short sale, are you always buying from the bank?
No, never. I'm always buying from the homeowner while they're in the foreclosure process.
Okay, they're in the foreclosure process. That's a really critical kind of nuance, and it's not even that nuance. I mean, in Canada, really, really tough to deal with a bank in a foreclosure situation if it's gone that far. So you're dealing with the seller, with the vendor, before it actually completes the transaction called foreclosure. So you're kind of getting in somewhere along the line and trying to save the deal or save their credit rating, or give me a little bit more detail in short selling. It's not as popular here in Canada.
No, it's not. And I've actually many years ago, I went to a couple of, I was asked to speak at a couple of real estate conventions in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And I found out there's just a handful of banks and they kind of control it, and the short sales are hard to do. So I actually did one short sale a while back in Canada. I thought, well, I have to do at least one. I'm going to go there and teach, and I got to at least do something. So it's not exactly the same as it is in the States. But when people start falling behind on their payments over here, after they've next X amount, like maybe 12 payments, the bank sends, the letter, make your payment, do a loan modification, do this, do that, all the things. And eventually they get a sale date that's set. And that would be like the foreclosure sale date. So once the bank files the notice, it says, hey, you have missed 10 payments. We're officially going to file foreclosure. Once it goes to the courthouse, it's public record. So everybody that has a computer can get online, type in the county, and there's everybody that's in foreclosure with a sale date that's over here. So between here and in here, I find those people. And most everyone over here owes what their house is worth, if not more. I say, hey, listen, we can help you get a fresh start. So my goal was to help my homeowners that's my main goal, and to help my homeowners get a fresh start by buying their house. And then maybe I know the prices are different. So maybe they have a $500,000 house, they owe $500,000. I want to get the bank to take maybe $300 as a full payment. And then I'm going to buy it from the homeowner, give them some moving money, get them going. They do avoid the foreclosure on their credit report. And then I can keep it for rental, live in it. I can fix it up and rehab it, just whatever I want to do, because I built an equity where there was none. Mm-hmm. So that's the gist of it. So I like to work with the homeowners, because when I went through my divorce, I had my car repossessed. I lost my house in foreclosure, and I understand. And I was a single mom, and nobody came knocking on my door trying to help me. So I think when I got into the business and realized that there was actually an industry on this side of it, I thought, you know what, I'm going to help other people, because that was the super crappy thing that happened to me.
So you learned, it's interesting, the catalysts, the fork in the roads that happen, at the time, and I would be interested in all of this, because we talked a little bit about mindset on your show and what does it really take. And, sometimes we have these forks in the road. They're very traumatic when we're going through them. You talk about a divorce, and, even if it's amicable, there's nothing easy about divorce. And
no,
so,
and not amicable at all.
Yeah. And then on top of it, it wasn't amicable for you. Right. So you find yourself, divorced, single mom. What's interesting about that, and maybe this is where there's some lessons along this, is that when you look back and reflect, it's a fork in the road, because at this point, to your, what you really stated clearly is that nobody's coming out of the woodwork to help you. Nobody's there to save you. And so that means you got to figure shit out and get it handled. So when you look back at that point, probably in the moment, you're angry, you're, whatever responsibility you accept in the breakdown of the relationship, you're mad at him, whatever the story is, but ultimately you pick yourself up, you dust yourself off, and you go forward. Now, in that time, what was it the friends that you met in the real estate world that kind of got you fired up? Were you working at the time? Like, where did that fork in the road ultimately, what was the pivotal moment for you to say, okay, I'm going to get this handled and real estate looks like a path?
So I, in my 20s and the 80s, I mostly worked in the bar business. I waited tables. I was in the server type industry.
Sure.
I actually got fired from Denny's. So y'all have Denny's there, I'm sure. I got fired on third shift, 10 p.m. till 6 in the morning. I got fired 3:45 in the morning. And I got fired from a few jobs in my 20s. And they would say things like, oh, you're insubordinate. And And I was a good worker. I always was on time. If someone called in sick, I'd work a double shift. But I would tell people, like, listen, Patrick, if you would just do this and this and this and this, your business would be better. So I was
Right.
always telling people, and I would tell people that were my managers, like, you suck as a man. I'm gonna take your job. And so I got fired a lot. So I'm at this point, I'm 30 years old. I have this kid. I was like, well, all I really know how to do is wait tables and be in the bar business. I don't want to do that working at night. I just don't want to be in that crowd. I don't want to be around the party crowd. I'm a mom. I'm a serious person now. And so in the late 80s, the only way we could find jobs was in the classified section of the newspaper. And I'm sure you remember that because we're the
Yes,
same
of
age. So
course.
you remember that. And back in the late 80s and 90s, the MLMs were the multiple, what do they call multi-level marketing?
Yeah.
They were so huge. So I'd go to all these meetings and there's like 500 people there. And I thought, oh, like I need something. So I met some people through that.
Mm.
Like, oh, yeah, no, we buy these houses, they're in foreclosure. And we knock on the door and we talk to the people and we offer to fix up their house. And I was like, all right, they knock on the door. I could do that. They talk to people. I can do that. Now this you'll laugh. So when they said fix them up, I in my mind thought that meant to decorate. So I thought in my first house I was going to put in carpet and paint and have custom made blinds and decorate and then sell this house. But when it was done, I was like, and the bathroom's old, the kitchen's old, there's linoleum, like everything's yellow and avocado. And I was like, oh, so I was like, okay, so fix that means rehab, which I did not know how to do. So I actually started going to the Home Depot and taking classes. So like I took a tile class and like going and I was like, okay, I need to tile this kitchen. So I measure the kitchen and take it back. And like, this is what I have. And they're like, you need, thin set grout, this, that spacers. And I took it home and I've got all my notes. I'm like, I'm going to tile the whole kitchen. And I did. And then I was like, I need new cabinets. And I was like, okay. So I took a cabinet class and learned how to measure and I put in cabinets and Ava would be sleeping at night and I'd be building screens and I'd be doing all this stuff. And I tell people all the time, if you're going through a nasty divorce, you don't need therapy. Rehab a house by yourself. When you tear stuff up, I sledgehammer, I'm like, yeah. And when I was done, I was like, oh, I feel better. I got all my anger out and I made 22 grand. Like, how great could that be? So I think that for my personal self, if I had really understood what I was actually getting into, I'm not 100% sure I would have had the courage to do it because I didn't know how to rehab, but I did know how to decorate. I always know that I have good taste. I know how to do things. I was like, I can do that. If someone had said, you're going to take a sledgehammer and tear everything out of this house and put in toilets and sinks and ceiling fans and this and that, I probably would have been like, well, I don't know how to do that. And I might not have done it. So for me personally, being naive was a good thing because I didn't really understand fully what I was doing. So I went door knocking, had a baby on my hip. I hear you have foreclosure. I'd like to fix up your house. We'll sell it. We'll split the money. And I didn't know what I was doing. I was like 3 houses in. And I thought, what the hell am I doing right now? But I liked it.
Well, there's so many things that you just said in all of that. There's so many kind of comments, questions that I have. But let me go here. You and I had a conversation on your show, and one of the things we talked about was what gets in people's way, and that is the fear of failure. And you've seen it. And when we say it gets in their way of fear of failure, we've seen those individuals because you're an educator, you're a coach. You
Yep.
see those people that actually you coach them and they just take action. And you see those individuals that just do busy work and never really take action. They never get stuff done. And something that you just, as you described your story and kind of talked about it, is that regardless of the fact that you didn't know what you were doing, you just kept moving forward and then
Yep.
redeciding and reconfiguring as you needed. Would you,
Yes.
the reason I set it up that way, because I'm sure that you've seen this and I would like your experience in it. People try and build a baby grand piano before they start to play rather than just start building the piano and figure out it may just need to be a player piano. It doesn't have to be a baby grand. So in other words, over planning something when actually, no, I'm going to rehab this particular property and I'm just going to get to work and I'll figure shit out as I go along. That's kind of where you were at as a single mom, divorced, just trying, I got to make some money. I got to figure this out. I'm not doing, I'm not being a server anymore, and I'm just going to figure shit out. So the courage really was just to start the journey, and the confidence that you gained in that, it's interesting. It's personality type too, right? It's a statement of character, is that you just put one foot in front of the other and had the confidence, whether you second guessed yourself or not, you kept going and you figured shit out. You just went, okay, oh gosh, I better take a tile course. Oh, I better take a cabinet making course. Like you just kept going, right? And that is the fundamental difference, right? Is that you start the journey, you have an idea what you want as an outcome, but you have to be prepared to, number one, take the step and then redecide, put in the correction, but just keep going on the path. Is that kind of described? This is what I heard. That's what I heard from you. Is that an accurate description of kind of what went on for you, Dwan?
Well, it is. So as I told you earlier, I was raised in Dayton, Ohio, which is, the Midwest. For people that maybe over here don't know where all the states are laid out, very, very cold in the winter. And you may not remember this. They had this giant blizzard called the Blizzard of 78. And it was such a giant blizzard across the country. They made T-shirts. Like I survived the blizzard of 78. And I remember that winter, the blizzard, people were just locked in. I wrecked my car. I fell on the ice a couple times. And I said to my dad, when this shit melts, I'm moving to Florida. And so now I'm in Ohio and I'm by myself and I'm 18 years old. And I said to my dad, he's like, oh my God, I moved to Florida. You don't know anyone there. I was like, no, I'm telling you, I hate the weather. I'm moving to Florida in the summer. And I did. Mm-hmm. And I went by myself. I went down with a friend for vacation. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to stay down here. I saw they have all these efficiencies. You can rent by the week. I'll get a job. I'll wait tables. How hard can that be? So now I'm 30. So I've already been in Florida for a decade. And all this stuff happens with my husband. And my family is like, move back to Ohio. You can live in your old bedroom. You can get your life together here.
Yeah.
And my thought process was like, but I already left. And if I go back, I'm afraid I'll get stuck. Because at that time, everybody was working for General Motors and the factories and working for the man. And I thought, well, I don't want to do that. I already left that. So I remember one day sitting at the beach, and I was like, I could just swim out in that water. I could pray that a shark eats me. And that seemed like a better idea than moving back to my old bedroom in Ohio.
That's so great.
I was like, okay, well, shark's not going to eat me because I got to raise this baby. So you know what? I'm just going to do something on my own. I don't care if it's licking envelopes. I'm going to do something so this child can be with me every day. And if I don't make it, I can get a job, but if I don't do something now, I'll be stuck. And I already had felt stuck, even as a teenager. I just felt like stuck in a really small town out in the middle of the country. Because, as a kid, it's like, there's nothing to do out there. So everybody gets into trouble because, we don't have anything to do. And I just thought, I just don't want to do that. I don't know. I'll just figure it out. So I would never have imagined in my life that first deal that I'd be like 32, 33 years later doing this and writing books and being on TV and having a podcast. Like that decision would be this.
So I want to ask you a question, Dwan, is that, when you think about what you shared in terms of who you were as a server and getting fired and, really because you were always looking at a better way to do something, how you saw it. Which is pretty entrepreneurial just in thought process, right? And, forget about the fact that, an average somebody who's going to a job and working 9 to 5 or whatever that is, it's not generally the mindset. And it can be, but not generally. But you were very assertive and very kind of like, you got to make this better. And that got you in trouble. So the question I have for you is where did that come from? Like, so were your parents entrepreneurial? Was your, how is it that you kind of came out of the chute so kind of
so different?
Yeah. How'd you do that? Like, were you raised that way? What was it? Grandma? What was it?
No, no, I don't know. It's funny. I was in the fifth grade, so my maiden name was Lowe, Dwan Lowe. So in the fifth grade, I was the class president, and I used to sign my name, Dwan Lowe, the president. So if I don't know where that came from. So if I signed anyone's yearbook or anything, it says Dwan Lowe, the president. And I was like, I'm going to be the president of everything. I'm going to do that. I don't even know because I had great parents. They were married. My dad worked. My mom stayed home and took care of the kids. Like I was raised in a really nice Midwestern, blue collar family. And I just don't know. I remember like I graduated high school in 77. So they would say, I heard from everyone, including my parents, get married, get out of high school, get married, get a factory job, have some kids, work for the man, retire when you're like 60. And so my first job out of high school, I did get a factory job. And I had it for like a week. And I thought, oh my God, it's so hot. And you're standing all day and there's no air conditioning. Why would my parents, why would they want this from me? This is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. And then that winter came and I was like, oh, Lord have mercy. I can't work in a factory all my life and I can't deal with the cold. I'm just going to move. I don't even know what I'm going to do, but I'm not going to do it here. So I think I was like, what do the people say? You like work towards something or you run from this. I don't know. I forget how it goes, but I wanted to not do this. So anything else seemed like a better choice.
Got it.
The fear of me being the age I am now and just retiring from a factory, I can't even imagine that would have been my life. And nothing against people that do that. I tell people all the time, listen, if you wait tables or you work at factories, I have cousins that are just now retiring. God bless you because you got to do what you got to do for your family. But there was no place in my mind that I felt like the presidents should have a job like that. I wanted to travel and I wanted to go on airplanes and I want to do things. And 90% of my family's never even been on an airplane now. Oh, I don't want to fly. Planes crash. It's like cars crash every day. What's wrong with you?
Well, see, probably, Dwan, in a previous life, you were a princess. I mean, there's no doubt about it. You have, you have high standards for yourself. So here's my observation, because we've had previous conversation and now we're in this conversation. And I think it's an important part of, a character trait. So you appear to be that individual that what you see is what you get. You're confident in being authentic. You are, I'm assuming, pretty clear on your values. But here's the question for you. Along the way, for you to be Dwan and to be that big personality and to keep moving forward and be that, be as bold as you are, and then end up on, like you say, on TV shows and coach and all interviews and all the things that you've done in your life. How much of that is just because you reflect on who you're being and let it go? Or is it really just who you are? As at some point, do you question it? Has somebody ever said, Dwan, you got to just chill out. Like you got to back up a little bit. Like, I think that's probably happened to you, but I don't know that. And you've gone, no, what you see is what you get. If you don't like who I am, then that's okay. I'll see you later. Bye.
So the reason I interviewed you first is because I can be a lot, and I know I can be a lot. So when I know I'm doing a swap with someone, I'm like, I should interview them first, so they get to see who I am, and not just come on like, hey, with all the hair and everything, and like people are like, tone that down, girl, because I don't think I can. So I can be a lot for a lot of people, but it's funny. I was really shy in high school and I was really shy in my really like painfully shy in my early 20s. And I remember in Florida, in Fort Lauderdale, they'd have these Tony Robbins seminars. And I used to go to those. I'm like, and jumping in the crowd, like, I want to do this. I want to do this someday. This is amazing. And for like a whole decade, I remember going to all those events that would come into town and thinking, I want to be on that stage someday. I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I want to do that because the energy was electric and I like latched onto it. And then if you'd asked me at 19, oh, you'll be a public speaker, I'd be like, no chance on earth I'm going to speak in front of people. And now I've been in a crowd of 10,000 people. I'm like, hey, what's up? Doesn't even faze me.
Mm-hmm.
It's really weird. I don't know. I think I'm just some insane personality who doesn't know how to. I don't know how to rein it in.
Well, it's the reason I am interested in this particular kind of character trait, if you will, is I love it, by the way. And I'm blessed to be surrounded with really powerful women. Now, when I look at in terms of, how you show up and how you occur and all the energy that you bring, I know women like that. And I know that sometimes it's problematic for them. I know that on occasion it intimidates the shit out of others. And my wife is not your kind of energy, but definitely big and bold and entrepreneurial. And she has worked a lot in a man's industry as with athletes. And she really, she gets a bit of a hard time. So and the reason has over the years, I mean, she's good with it. And, it's all the things that she's learned at this point in her life. But the reason I asked the question for you, and I'm curious, is you're in the real estate industry, which historically is kind of, can be a good old boys club.
It is definitely male dominated. So is the speaking side and the coaching side, 100% podcasting, 100% male dominated.
So do you piss guys off? Like to me, I love it. Like I love this personality trait. I think it's fun and it's funny and you're smart. And so, but I want to know, do you piss a lot of people off? Men?
Oh, it's so funny. I've got a couple of videos, maybe on my YouTube channel. I've been to a couple of, I remember one guy in specific, won't name his name, but I remember he was in the audience. He came up to me. He goes, I just don't believe a woman can teach me anything. I was like, all right, well, then you should work with someone else. He's like, no, but I've been watching all weekend and I think you can teach me. I'm like, but I'm a woman and I'm like out there. And he's like, no, I know, but I have a thing. But he literally said to me, so I had him do a testimonial after he made like his first $500,000. Like I walked up to her and said, I don't think a woman can teach me anything if she taught me everything. And I am humbled by this woman now. And so I have had many, especially like 25 years ago, a lot of people that are like, oh, I don't know about if I want to work with her. But they do. And they're like, God, Dawn's amazing because I'm really sincere. I really like to help the homeowners. I truly want to help the investors. I'm very sincere in helping people attain whatever financial freedom is to them. That's not like working for a factory and doing your thing and retiring and you're exhausted and you look like you're 200 years old. And so I am sure I've made lots of people mad. I've been up on stage many times at a multi-speaker event and there's like 12 men and there's me. And they're always like, everyone asks her questions. I'm like, yeah, they all ask me questions because you guys look like cardboard cutouts and I look like a real person. So people like to talk to me. I'm not standing there in the suit and tie and the exact same hair. Like everyone, if you just change the head, they all look the same. So I call them all cardboard cutouts. So it's more of a struggle, I think, especially when I was starting off as a rehabber. Guys would meet me and like, you rehab houses. I was like, dude, you should see my garage. I have more tools than you have. I know how to use them all. I always tease my husband. I said, the first time he met me and came to my house, I said, he didn't fall in love with me. He fell in love with my tools. Because he saw this whole garage and all these shelves. He's like, whose are these? I'm like, these are mine. Because you know how to use these? I'm like, well, yeah, I rehab houses. I know how to use everything. And so I think men sometimes get a little bit intimidated by that. But the right man thinks it's amazing.
I agree. So good for you. Now, when you talk about, what you said earlier, Dwan, just a minute ago, in terms of your sincerity around helping others, is that something that you've evolved to discover about yourself that kind of lights you up? When I talk about in my own, Stephanie and I talk often on our Mindset Matters podcast about purpose, about understanding that if it's about you, it's going to get old really fast. You have to have, something that's outside of yourself, something that actually drives you, and being a contribution and having significance and making a difference in other people's lives is literally what gets me out of bed in the morning. I can
Yeah.
identify that in myself. It was something that it took me some years to kind of really sink my teeth into and understand that's what lights me up. For you, is that a revelation, or was it something that you started to discover and then got really intentional about? What is it that kind of drives you around that? I mean, we all want to be profitable in business and doing all the things that we do, but in behind all of that, there's got to be something a little bit deeper than the dollars and cents of it. At least that's my view of it. Do you have
No,
a
no,
different?
no. I agree 100%. I think I can even remember like being a child and I'd have younger cousins and they'd want to learn to do something. And I would just say, I'll show you how. And I was always, all my cousins were like, you were the leader of the pack. Although I was not the oldest one, I was like, according to them, I was like the leader of the pack. But well, let me show you how to do that. I know how to do that. I'll show you how to do that. So I think my whole life I've always, if I knew something, I shared it with other people if I thought it would help them. And then when I went through my situation and nobody offered to help me at all other than move back home, I was like, well, that's not helping me. I need to deal with this and put on my big girl pants and move forward. So then when I realized I could help other homeowners and other women and other men and other families going through the same thing, I thought, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this, but I'm going to show other people how to do it. And my husband and I both are from the Midwest, and we are from a family of people that have all like work for the man, basically. So Bill and I are the only two people in our entire families on both sides to become millionaires. Me by myself and him by himself. So when we met, we were already there. And I was like, you know what? If I did that, why can't other people do that? I was raised in the country. So why can't everybody become a millionaire? There's nothing special. I didn't have any training. I didn't go to college. Like, if I can do that, why can't everybody do that? That kind of became my thing. It's like, well, if I can do it, you can do it. So just let me help you.
I think that's so great. I mean, hence the name of the show, The Everyday Millionaire. And I mean, you're probably as close to being the epitome of that as you can get. And you've gone on to do some amazing things. But I love what you just said, which is you identify really clearly, it's like, if I can do it, anybody can do it. And I love that aspect of, what you bring to the table, in that, you don't hold yourself on a pedestal. You're going, I just figured shit out. I made a bunch of mistakes. I worked hard, and I just kept putting one foot in front of the other, and built a business, and got to live into, some of your highest values. And you start to identify
Yeah.
those values of being a contribution, of speaking on stage, of impacting many people's lives. I have a fundamental philosophy I'll share with you, Dwan, which is, many years ago in one of my meditations, I went, success is simple. And simple became a acronym for significantly impact many people's lives every day.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah, and it really kind of landed. It was many years ago, and every so often it shows up, and somebody will bring it up with me, and it's like, yeah, but significantly impact many people's lives. They go, well, yeah, but many people is whatever your circle of influence is. It doesn't, it
Yeah,
doesn't.
it is.
There's no number attached to it, right? If you go out in your day, or you build your business, or you're in your career where you're making an intention to have a positive impact on other people, then life is really good. Life starts to grow and be far better if you're not navel gazing and thinking about just you and the money that you're making. Now,
Yeah.
so when you look at the business that you've built, and you and your husband, are you guys partners, or are you still running in parallel, or have you just come together?
Now we are. We've been married 22 years. And so when I married Bill, my daughter was 13. So I was single for well over a decade. And I had a REIA group. I had a house, a car, a boat, the rentals. I was already speaking. Like, I was doing the stuff. And then when I met Bill, I was like, I don't know. I got pretty screwed the last time. And I know this is not the same guy. And I hate all men for the rest of my life because of this one. But I was really hesitant
Wow.
to take that step because I am strong too.
Yeah.
And I don't know that you can relate, but other women can relate. Sometimes when you have a strong personality, you want to date a man, and like a man that is like a leader, but in the relationship, in a few months or years' time, you become the man.
Yeah.
And because your personality is more dominant. And then all my previous relationships up until I met Bill. So I was 42 when we got married. And all my relationships, somewhere along the way, I kind of became the man and became the boss. I thought, wouldn't it just be nice to have a nice, strong man that likes a strong woman and could be my partner in life? And that's going to take somebody really special. And when I met Bill, I was like, and when my dad met him, he said, that man is not going to let you lead him around with the bull ring. And I was like, you're right. I'm going to marry him. So now we've been married 22 years. So everything we have is together. We raised, he had custody of his kids. I had my daughter. So we raised the kids together. And all of our kids are millennials. They're all in real estate. They're all working for themselves. We've got 4 grandkids. And we thought, you know what? We're going to just work this line of generations down, and we're going to be the ones that start the generational wealth. Someone's got to be the first one.
Yeah.
So we're
So it's interesting you talk about meeting and marrying, a powerful man, given who you are. And I, sometimes joke with Stephanie. I go, "You are so lucky you found me because nobody else could put up with you." Like you.
It's true. It's true. I overpower everybody. I don't mean to. I have but Bill has a strong personality too, and we're both like strong personalities, but I respect him as a man. And not to sound like all traditional, but we have a very traditional marriage. Like at home, I'm his wife. When we're up on the stage, we're a power couple. And when we're just hanging out, like that's my husband.
Yeah.
And I like that because women like me don't often get that.
I love that. I mean, it's so in line with how we operate as well as a couple. When you think about where you are in your life, I mean, you can go to the Denny's that you used to work for and, get a discount on your breakfast or your lunch.
I still love Denny's. They make those grand plans. I'm telling you, it's the best breakfast in the world.
Perfect. And now you get it for a discount. So when you look at your life where you're at today and, I guess officially, you're categorized like me as a senior citizen, but what does the future look like? When you think about at this point in your life, you've got kids and grandchildren, and are you and Bill looking and saying, okay, no, I want to slow down, or are you just managing your energy better? Well, like, how does it start to look when you look into the future that way, given the entrepreneurial spirit and where you've arrived at, even financially, perhaps?
So and that's a good question. So because we talked about that when we both turned 60, like everyone, my parents are still alive and some of my aunts, and they're like, well, when are you going to retire? It's like, but I built my own company. So I don't want to just go, okay, well, I'm 65, so I'm throwing it away. And my kids work, not with us specifically, but they have rentals and and I'm like, I think I want to work and long enough to where I have this one little granddaughter. She's like a fireball like me. And I'm like, I'm going to work long enough till she can take over my teaching and training. And when she can be like the Dwanderful, I might slow down. I don't know. So I have her come to a lot of my workshops and she gets up there and she's like, my name is Twyford, and someday I'm going to be your coach. And she's 9. She's like, no, Debbie, I'm going to be your coach. I'm like, no, seriously, I'm working with her. But Bill and I told you we bought a bunch of buildings in this little town, Clinton, Iowa. And he's from here. We were coming back for reunions. We see this downtown that looks like it's been abandoned. And after, 15 years of coming here, I was like, we should call someone and see if they have like some kind of downtown re-beautification or if they got something going on. Because the downtown is on the river. It's on the Mississippi River, across the bridge. Illinois is over there. And you could tell it used to be really cute. So we made a couple phone calls, like maybe the building department. They said, oh, yeah, there's a downtown partnership and there's this and that. Got some phone numbers, made a few phone calls, had lunch with a couple people. And we thought, we'll buy a building. That'll be fun. We'll buy a building. This is when we're 60. We're going to buy a building. And then we bought another building. And then this woman said, hey, you bought my friend's building. Will you buy my building? And then now we have 20 buildings. So we're rehabbing this downtown. And so And we'll probably be, we're like restoring the buildings back, and renting out the spaces. And they have apartments and just, multi-use commercial. And I'm like, well, by the time we finish all that, we'll probably be 70. So what will we do? I'm like, I don't know. Maybe we'll do another town. Like, this is new for us, this kind of a thing. And this is like the most fun I've had in ages. So it's like, I think we'll do this. I think we'll find another little town somewhere and we'll just start rolling around and rehabbing little towns. That would be fun.
So when you think about this project, specifically when you look at it, and it's a big project that you and Bill have taken on, you've surrounded yourself with a good team, I'm assuming. Do you have a GC that you kind of is your lead hand or whatever? Like, how do you manage your team? Or you're hiring locally, I'm assuming, and or maybe bring...
No. Everything's local. Now, my husband, he really loves the actual rehabbing personally. So right this moment, as you and I are talking, he's on the other building up on a lift. He's got some 80-foot lift that goes up into the sky. He's up on the lift right now. He's doing stuff, and you drive by him, he's just happy as a clam. I was like, okay, you stay up there. So he really likes doing that. I don't want to physically do the physical work on it anymore, but I like making the plans and designing and how are we going to do it and who's going to do this and who's going to do that. And when it's finished, what are we going to do with it? Who are we going to rent it to? But we have a property manager. We have people that work here, everything local. Since we've been in this town for the last couple of years, the property values downtown have already gone up 48% just since we started buying. And I know a lot of that is because of the work we've done to the buildings. And there's more businesses that are opening. And we have some other investors like, oh, I'll buy a building and I'll buy a building. And the town is very big on rebuilding, bringing back the downtown. And I'm like, if we keep doing that, shoot, I don't know. I feel like we could maybe own the whole town someday.
What's the population of the town? Just out of curiosity, give us some scope.
It's like 27,000. Not big. It's not a big town.
Yeah. But so it just gives us some scope of the project and maybe what you're doing. There's an interesting strategy that a friend of mine employs. He calls it buy the line, move the line. And what he means by that is he buys the furthest, like he'll buy the outer edge of any given region where across the street is kind of crap, but he then takes the street on the other side, ups it, and then it just it ripples out. So in other words, he buys the line, rebuilds, moves the line. And what you've just described really is you went downtown over the course of the year, even because of your own development, was part of the reason that property values started to escalate. You probably have got some enthusiastic city council members that are going, this is cool. They get behind, they support you. And the next thing you know, you're starting to see property values increase. Was there something else? And just curious, it's the kind of the economic part of me that kicks into gear, and was there a economic shift in that particular region or in that city? Was there a business or a big company that came in? What was kind of driving it economically that maybe changed in the past year?
So Clinton, Iowa, back in the day, they used to have more millionaires that lived here in Clinton because they were all lumber barons. So like back in the day, the river's here, there's a railroad track along the river, and they were all wealthy from lumber. And then the downtown was like popping, bubbling, like the Sears, the JCPenney, all the things. But then out here, out of town, the land expanded. They put out a casino, and then they put out a Walmart, and they put out the restaurants, and people left the downtown and went out here. So in this downtown, it's an opportunity zone. So, if you own the buildings for 10 years, you don't have to pay any capital gains. They have grants upon grants upon grants that are available, just here's the money, and to do the outside of the buildings. And they're just working very hard to get this town to be like a little mecca where everyone goes down to eat and drink and shop and antique and spend the weekends on the downtowns. They do every Thursday night this summer now, they close off the street and they have live bands. And, that started off with 500 or 600 people. And last year they had like 2,000 people coming down in this little 3-block area, dancing on the streets, listening to music. And we're, a major sponsor of all of those things. And they're doing, so they're just all these things. But we were like, it's a downtown, it's an opportunity zone. And at the end of the day, if we own everything for 10 years and the town never like fully pops back around, we could probably still sell everything and make a profit or put some businesses or just whatever. But things are making a big turn. And you can just, every time we come, we can see a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And now there's bigger events coming. And there's 2 old hotels that just got bought for like $20 million each. They're making them all full of lofts. There's some factories. There's a college that a Japanese company bought, and they're going to make cars, and there's just things coming in, and the area is expanding. And we're like, you know what? We're going to be a pivotal part of that. And so far, so good. So, we have no guarantee it's going to work. We don't know. We just thought, we can do this. Why not? Like, why not? We can do this.
So I'm curious, when you look at a project like that, and I think there's some real value in kind of just looking at it through your eyes, Bill's eyes. So you're in this town. What did you just get curious, or was there what was kind of the compelling, I don't know, why did you look at it and say, let's take this on, or let's look into this more? What was the curiosity that drove you to even doing the investigation? Did you look at the old buildings and go, some of these would be really cool if they were restored? Or were you starting to see where the city was saying, hey, listen, if you're interested, we got stuff going on? Like, what was that kind of compelling curiosity that got you going?
And, it's a good question. So we both go back to all of our high school reunions. And Bill's high school, every 5 years, they faithfully have a reunion, and like 100 people show up. So we were coming every 5 years. So we came when we were dating, and then like at the 10 year, so 5 years, and the next 5 years, like 5 years into our marriage. The next one's like 10 years into our marriage. The next one, we're like 15 years into our marriage. I'm like, every time we come here, they meet at these places, and it's like the downtown is half of it's boarded up, and it's so cute. And there's like one little person bought a building and put a little antique store in, and someone bought a little thing over here, but there's all this boarded up stuff. I'm like, if the right people came, they could get all the boards off, get all the buildings restored, and this could become like a popping thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason we thought that is we have a house in Florida, in Delray Beach, Florida. Now, Delray Beach, I have had a house in Delray Beach for the last 25 years. And Atlantic Avenue, which is like, it's just called the Avenue now. It was like ghetto. It was boarded up. There was nothing. And these 2 gay guys opened up this little art gallery and a restaurant next to it. And I mean, it was the hood, like the hood. And I was like, I love that. So I would go there because I had bought a house in Delray, and it was cheap, but it was on the water, but it was still kind of a ghetto. And then these 2 guys had someone that opened up a place across the street. And then like it started building. And over the course of the last 15 years, from the interstate to the beach, which is about a mile and a half, it is nothing but shopping and stores and restaurants. And they branch out all the way. And it's now like one of the most popular cities in the state of Florida. And I watched that happen. And I bought 2 little tiny commercial buildings that were like old houses that were like some light commercial. And I bought those, and I bought a house in there, and I watched it happen. I thought, man, if I ever had a chance to do something like that, because at the time I didn't have I don't think I had that big enough of a mindset 25 years ago when I bought my house to do that. I thought, if I ever get the chance to bring back a town, I'm going to do it. And all those years went by. I met Bill. We got married. We're 15 years in. And we're like, hey, you know what? This downtown looks just like it used to look on Atlantic Avenue. Let's take on this project. So we did.
I love that. And that's really big vision stuff. Are you driven by goals? Do you talked about, think about it one day, and I say this just because you made that comment, one day I'm going to rebuild or build a city or whatever the comment was. And it just lends to me asking the question, are you driven by goals and outcomes, or are you pretty much a big vision thinker and then shit just unfolds. Like, how is it for you?
I am a very much a big vision thinker. And so, like, going back to the Florida, when they were buildings for sale on that street, I was like, oh man, that's really in the hood. I don't think I could do that. But I'm also only, 7 or 8 years into my real estate investing journey. And I don't think I had a big enough mindset like, well, why can't I do that? Someone's doing it. I'm literally watching it. And now I look at the whole thing, it's like, golly, everything down there is just worth millions and millions of dollars. And so I just, as it kept building every year, I thought, I wish I would have kind of got in on some of that because it looked fun, but I don't think I had a big enough thinking yet because I was still doing single family houses and little duplexes. And, I was still kind of over in this box. And then my son Bill and I started coming here. I'm in the box of like, well, we just try it. Like if it doesn't work, we can sell the buildings. And the same thing like with investing. I can start or I can get a job. We're like, let's just try it. What's the worst that'll happen? We'll bring in the property values and we'll sell them or we'll keep them. We don't know. We're going to try and see what happens. So I think now I just think so big. I don't even consider that I would fail. Like it never has even occurred to us that it won't happen the way we plan for it to. People are like, oh my gosh, aren't you scared? And I'm like, no, I'm honestly, I'm not scared at all. The fact I own 28 parcels in this little area, I should probably be terrified. But I'm like, no, because I can do it. That people will come. We're going to do it. We've got the mindset. We've got the courage. We've got the money. We're kind of like jump out of a plane and, figure out the landing on your way down kind of people. So it's like, why not? Like, why not?
So, because you mentioned it, when you look at the money side of it, that's what gets in most people's way. So, when you look at the dollars and cents side of it, did you bring in capital partners to support it? Was it just you being able to take existing portfolio and leverage equity? How did you kind of capitalize this size of a project?
So, so it started off, we were just going to buy like 2 buildings. Like, that's it. So on the main drag, like 3rd and 5th, it's like 3 blocks this way and 3 blocks this way from the river. So on this main drag, not the river, but this drag, the corner building was for sale. Now this is in mid-America. Okay. So this is a 20,000 square foot building. It was listed for like $185,000. We knew who owned it. They had already left Iowa, moved to Phoenix to live in the warm weather. We ended up buying the building for $32,000.
Wow.
So we're like, okay, well, we'll just buy that. 32 grand, 20,000 square feet. We'll do something with it. Well, that girl, Patricia, told this girl, and she says, hey, Twyfords, I hear you guys bought her building. I have 3 buildings. My husband's been deceased for a decade. I want to move to Florida. Would you take on my buildings? And we're like, no, we really can't. You'd have to own or finance them. We just can't sink that much money. And she's like, no, I'll just mail me a check to Florida every month and I'll finance them for you. So we were like, okay. So now we're like, shoot, now we have 4 buildings. What are we going to do? And then I swear to you, this is exactly how it happened. People are like, how did it happen? I'm like, I'm telling you, like God opened the door. And then the next person, Dwayne, called. She's like, hey, listen, I've got 2 buildings. I'm 90, would you take my buildings? And we're like, no, you'd have to own or finance them. We just can't. And all these people own or finance almost all these buildings.
Yeah.
And then the bank called and said, hey, I see you have these buildings over here. We have 2 streets over. We have a storage unit, a giant parking lot, 3 buildings side by side. We took that in foreclosure. Will you buy that? We're like, no, we don't want to do any bank financing. And so we said no for like a year. And they're like, okay, what if we just give you a loan, no money down, you just make payments. So we're like, oh, all right. So I'm telling you, every single thing. So now there's a downtown partnership. So the money that we pay for taxes go into this fund. Everybody has to get together and vote on what to do to bring things downtown. So I watch a lot of Hallmark movies. I'm a big Hallmark junkie because they have like, Christmas in July and the Christmas movies. And the March Madness, the spring, and the festivals in October. There's a festival every week. I thought we could do that down here, like little festivals. People will come from all around. And so we start one of these meetings, and every time we have an idea, they keep voting it down. Like, well, we tried Christmas in July a decade ago and it didn't work. I'm like, but Christmas in July, literally the Hallmark company that makes billions of dollars, it's in Canada, by the way, made more money in Christmas in July than the whole entire rest of the year. We should do Christmas in July. Nobody would do it. So we're like, well, we're going to do it in front of our buildings. It was amazing. So then we talked to the guy and said, listen, how many buildings do we have to own to just control the vote? So that's where it went off the chart. Like, well, if you had 28 parcels and this guy's got that, and that, you could control the vote. So like, okay, so now we're going to find some more buildings. Then when we go in, we're going to say, okay, here's what we're doing, because we don't have to vote because we're telling you this is what we're doing. So that's kind of what ended up happening. Is I was like, after 2 years of getting all my ideas shot down, I thought, you know what? I clearly can't play well with others. We've been trying to make nice, but no one thinks as big as we do. So we're just going to scoop up more and tell everybody else what's happening.
You get this.
So we're like gangsters. We like came in town and just bought someone. Went to the next meeting. We're like, oh yeah, we got 8 more parcels over here. So here's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And we just went to a meeting like 2 nights ago, and they're like, oh, the Twyfords are here in town for the entire summer. What are we going to do? Like, you're going to do everything we say.
Well, you know something, and what you've done is anybody that is located downtown is probably pretty happy with the changes that you've made and the growth that you've generated. So good for you. So as we start to wind down, you've been really generous with your time. You know, I could pick your brain a lot because you bring so much to the table, but I do some rapid fire questions just to have some fun, you know.
Okay.
And you ready? And I know you're not tech savvy. You've shared that with me. But are you Android or are you iPhone?
Android, baby.
Android. Okay.
One at a time.
Why doesn't that not surprise me? Okay, good for you. Now, do you have a book or something, you know, a book that was maybe pivotal for you to read, or one that you really recommend or gift to others?
I don't have anything that I give to others. I remember, like I mentioned to in my show, I remember in my 20s, I was going to like the Tony Robbins, and I read that book, The Millionaire Next Door. And I just remember thinking, like, I could be that person.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I could do that. And then I started reading like all those self-help books, like, you know, the 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, and all the books, and all the Napoleon Hill, and I read all the books.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to do that, but I'm going to write a book too. And so then I wrote a book called Short Sale Pre-Foreclosure Investing. That was a bestseller. And then I was asked by the publishing company to write another book, and it's called How to Sell Your House When It's Worth Less Than a Mortgage. I thought, you know what? I like writing. I like teaching. I like educating. I'm going to do that. So I don't have like a book.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
but
that's
you know,
fine.
I guess I kind of do. And it's funny because I've done a couple podcasts on this, and we've all read Green Eggs and Ham.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I read that book to my grandkids. I said, this is the world. This guy won't try the eggs, not in a box with a fox. He won't try it. And Sam is like, come on, try this, try this, try this. This will be great. And everyone in the world is this person. I'm not doing it. I didn't plane. I won't try it. And once he tries it, he's like, wow, this is the greatest thing in the world. I love green eggs and ham. Like, and I tell my grandkids, that's what life is. You're the person that's going to be like, try the green eggs and ham. Everybody else is going to be like, no, 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 with all their excuses. We are not going to be a family of excuses.
Mm-hmm.
So I literally read that to my grandkids all the time and tell them they're going to be like the Sam I am. Try it, try it, try it, try it. Not no, 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 no.
Mm.
So honestly, that would be like the moral of my story right there is green eggs and ham.
Well, that's a little bit philosophical in thought process, and I love it. I think it's great. So tell me something that, you are, really, I mean, it doesn't matter how you look at it. You're a strong leader. You have to have those leadership qualities in order to do what you do. And is the leadership that you take on and the leader that you are, is it something that you pay attention to? Is it something that you study, and or when I say study, do you Like, do you look at it or read or filter things through how can I be a better leader? Or do you just show up the way you show up and let the chips fall where they may, and Bill picks up the slack? How do you kind of operate from a leadership point of view, Dwan?
Probably a little bit of both. So I'm a Christian, so I read the Bible, and anyone that reads the book of Proverbs tells you how to run a business. It talks to you about treating employees, how to be, about what kind of wife to be, what kind of parent to be, tells you what to do with your money. And if you literally follow the principles, it explains to you all the things that I do. So I'm always like, wow, I like to think of myself as like a Proverbs woman. I treat the employees right. I treat the animals right. I treat the properties right. I treat the people right. I like to edify other people and build them up and tell them good job and keep going and you're amazing and you can do more. I'm doing a cheerleader over there. But I think kind of, I don't know. I mean, it sounds kind of cocky, but I feel like just leading is natural for me.
Mm.
I don't know. I mean, I've read a million books, I've been to a million things, but I feel like I kind of just naturally, if I'm in a group of people, I just want to be like, okay, well, here's what we're going to do.
Well, I think I mean, it really.
And I think all the time.
Well, it speaks to the fact, even going back to your younger years when you were, telling your Denny's manager what to do and how to run the business. So, at the end of the day, I think it's just it's part of your character, in what you do. So I love it. So, do you have a favorite swear word?
I say shit a lot.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm like, shit. I forgot to do that.
Shit.
So it's not a favorite word, but I probably say that one more than anything.
Got it. And favorite tune, favorite band?
I do have a favorite band. So my favorite band is Styx. Do you remember Styx?
Oh, yeah.
I love Styx. So when I was in high school and in Dayton, there was a place called REIA Arena. And I would love music, so I would save up my $7.50 and go to every concert that came. And Styx was the opening band for all these groups. And I thought, man, I love their music. It's kind of classical. It's got like a little gospel in the background of it. They've got, it's a big sound. And I thought they should be the main band. And I probably saw them 7 times before they came through town as the main band.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, Crystal Blue, just all of it. I was like, I love this band. And so I'm more of the like Styx, Queen, Aerosmith.
All great.
I'm right there. But like if I had to pick one, I could turn on any Styx song from the beginning of time, even all the B-sides. I know the words that all.
That's hilarious.
All of the songs. So I'm a Styx, Queen, Rolling Stones, Aerosmith kind
all
of girl.
of it. Yeah. That was a great era. Favorite movie?
So some people are going to be like, what? And it's been a favorite movie forever, but I like the movie Gran Torino.
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever see Clint Eastwood? Now, a lot of people go, oh my God, there's so much cursing. But if you understand the movie, it's a great movie. I was raised with those people like Clint Eastwood. Those were my dads and uncles, and that's how I was raised. And the whole thing about him helping the people that he's hated his whole life just because he was told not to like them. It's like a really good redemptive. And I know it's like there's so much cursing and so much in it, but for me, that's like a really moving movie.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not someone that's old, that's so crotchety that their whole heart changed, that everything about them changes when they actually meet the people that they're told not to like.
Beautiful.
So I hate racism because we're taught racism. Nobody grows up like that. Your parents, your family, the people, the streets, the internet, people teach it to you.
It's true. If God exists, what do you want to hear God say when you get to the gates?
Oh, well done, good and faithful servant.
Beautiful.
God does exist.
I love it.
That's the words all of us want to hear. Well done, my good and faithful servant. You killed it.
You rock. You rock.
Killed it.
Dwanderful. Finally, final question. What are you grateful for?
I think I'm just really grateful. I'm grateful for my life and my family. I think I'm just really grateful. maybe this sounds a little bit selfish, but I'm really grateful for my mindset because my mindset has never held me back. And because I have a good mindset, it's opened up all the doors. And granted, lots of doors have been shut, not saying that. But having a really strong mindset has made my life easier, I believe, because I don't think about failing or what if or what if, what if. I'm like, yeah, but what if? It's great. So I'm thankful for a positive mindset.
It's beautiful. And I am always grateful for my guests and having the opportunity to meet them and have great conversations like this one. Like you, I am grateful for my life. I'm grateful for my wife and my kids and all the rest that goes with it. You know, Dwan, been a fantastic conversation. Thanks for joining me on the show today.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for listening.
It was great. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. If you found value in the podcast, please take the time to rate and review and share with others. Share with your friends. As it is my goal to always improve and to provide the highest value for you, the listener. If you have any comments, suggestions, or questions you'd like answered, please email me at ceo@reincanada.com. That's ceo@reincanada.com. I look forward to hearing from you. And until next time, Patrick out.